Que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. Mas é foda. Olha isso.
So I want to make sure I say your name right. So,
Yeah.
Rafael Pensado.
Perfect.
All right. Why don't you tell everybody what it is you do today? Who are you?
Well, I don't even know how to answer that properly because, the way things happen and developed, it became kind of a hybrid. I'm a drummer. I'm a music aficionado. I love art. I love working with people. I love people. I love traveling. I love everything there is in this industry with all this wackiness and all the turbulences and stress. I think every tour changes you. I never came back home the same way I leave for tour. But I'm a guy that tries to connect dots. That's what I do. I for some reason growing up, I had different personalities of friends. I have a main group of friends that stayed connected for over 30 years now, and we're all music lovers. We all love heavy metal. We all love Megadeth, for instance. And so we stick to each other. And then there were some other groups that kind of we liked each other because we just go to school at the same time, but they went a whole different area of expertise, but we still keep in touch, and that's very interesting. It took me a while to understand that not everybody has friends like that. So I've learned a lot from friends that work in the finance world, banking, business, software developing, and not everybody is really into professional industry of music. I mean, so right now in Megadeth, I'm the band assistant. I take once Dave's in the building, I'm with Dave. Before that, I do production coordinator. I do Vic Rattlehead, which is how I started and one of the parts that I really love and I'm really proud because we were able to develop a whole new thing with Vic. I don't think Vic had the attention that he has now before.
No, I've been a fan since P Cells, but Vic being on stage is new to me. Like that's
yeah, and that's really cool because the first time I did it, people just like that was September 24th, 2016, and nobody gave me a lot of specifics on what to do and what not to do. They were just like, yeah, just cross the stage, don't stay for too long, and don't bump into the band guys, that kind of stuff. But then little by little, I started to develop this routine. I always come out stage right.
Yeah, because Vic didn't have a personality. Vic was always on the record, so you had to kind of invent who he is in a way.
Yeah. And funny you say that because that was one of the most interesting process for me. I developed a little bit of Vic's character for the P-Cells part of it, which is the suit when I go out on P-Cells, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we do on Conquer or Die, and then the big robot. And then Dave was a big one on that. Dave wanted something really specific on that. And that's really cool. I love when hey, this is how I want this. So, wow, this is great. I love to follow directions from the man. And then when we did the video series, which was like 6 years later, it was a whole different development of character, and we'll get to that. But we in Megadeth, that's what I do, and right now I think I'm one of the oldest members of the crew. You know, obviously Kiko and Dirk are there before me. Um, but you know, it came to a point where I always told Dave that I would never lie to him. I'll give him an ugly truth, but I'll never lie to him. In this industry, it's very common to see, you know, guys like him being surrounded by yes people, and
It's the worst.
um, it's the worst, dude. It's the worst, and I was not gonna be one of them because I really love the guy. You know, even before I met him, because his music connected to me in many, many ways. And of course, you know, people say idols are not meant to be met or something. You know, you're not supposed to meet your idols because you can, you know, break apart. Yeah, I said, well, don't meet them, work with them. You know, then maybe you can
Yeah.
have a different perspective if you're lucky enough. You know, and at the same time, you know, a lot of my friends, oh, dude, you're living the dream. You know, that's always what you wanted, and there you are, it's happening. But sometimes when that kind of subject come up, it may sound like they're feeling sorry for something that's going on their lives, and so I always make sure to let them know, and that's a chapter on my book. You know, whoever live their dreams will live their nightmares. You
Mm.
know, it comes hand in hand. There's no escape out of it. You know, because it's the balance. You know, it has to be ups and downs. Cannot be just ups unless you're high all the time. You know, but not in normal life. You know, and you know some of the challenges, you miss a lot of important dates. You know, you may miss funerals, you
Mhm.
miss birthdays, you know, you miss, you know, maybe you have a kid and your kid is sick and you cannot be there, you know, because you have a show to put on, and it comes with territory. You know, you miss a lot of important times, and that will add up, you know, and so that start to develop a nightmare thing. You know, start to second guess, why am I doing this? You know, why is this so important to me, to the point that I'm gonna miss all this other stuff. So it's you know, once you know why you're doing what you're doing, and I think it helps make sense on why you're missing all that stuff anyways, you know. And but you know, in the end, I think I try to be very considerate that this is a dream of mine that I had as a child, and on the other hand, there's the, oh man, but you're not with your band, you know. Isn't this like a wannabe kind of dream, though? You know, isn't this like, oh, I couldn't do that, so you're gonna do this? And I understand that observation, but it's not it's not the truth, you know, because you know, musicians, artists, you know, once you deconstruct why you're doing that, it's because you want to work within a group, you know. And it could be, if I was the main songwriter for Mindflow, for instance, I'll just, you know, I keep my studio. I have a studio, and you know, that's my main office. And you know, if I was there right now, pretty much like you have your guitars, your amps, you know, your creative stuff in your room. That's exactly what I have, you know. And I have a drum set behind me, and then cool, I'm doing something. Okay, I'll just go play drums for, you know, a few minutes and just move on with my day. And but that's not why I got into music. I got into music because I saw a band rehearsing and I saw that energy. I felt it. You know, I couldn't even describe it. I was too young. I was like 6 years old. And but you know, to have friends that you can share moments like that, that was kind of, oh man, I really want that. You know.
I had the same thing. I had a friend took me to his band practice. They were doing just metal, you know, it was early 90s, but seeing them all play, get together, play these songs. They had a lot of originals. I was like, I got to do that. And it wasn't fame or anything. That nobody knew who they were. It was just everybody getting together to play. And so I definitely get that. And I do want to dig into the Mindflow stuff, because a lot of people, to your point, it's very hard to come out of the thinking of I have to be the band person to go do something else is too big of an ego hit for a lot of people. And it's something I'm having to confront. Like I'm not the Dave, I'm not going to be that. So I have to do something else, and that's fine. But a lot of people just give up, and that's what I want to fight against a little bit, push back against a little bit.
Dude, I think, so the band that you were, working with, playing with, you guys are not playing anymore together?
I haven't played a band since 2007. I was a drummer then. I'm a guitar player now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was in drum line, and I was always first snare and was really good at that. And I got a kit.
Wow.
But my mom had this rule, like when she was home, I couldn't practice.
Right.
So you have a drum set, you can't play it. Well, I could get a practice amp on a guitar and turn down, so I just switched.
Yeah, totally.
But then everybody needed a drummer around here. So, and I think it's even worse nowadays. But so I couldn't get a gig playing guitar, so I just played drums. I'm fine with either. But I have this electric kit right here. I took a lesson with Dirk in January.
Oh, that's cool.
Because man, I was always
did you guys do a lesson online?
Yeah, he does the Skype, and he's.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people know that they could pay the same price as your local guy. You can get Dirk over Skype to give you a lesson, a whole hour.
Yeah.
So everybody check that out. But I just like it all. But people don't seem to want to play together anymore much. They want to do the bedroom recording and swap tracks, but I want to play in the room.
Yeah, dude, totally. And even like you hear bands like that, there are certain albums that you can tell it's a band in a room playing.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a game changer, like, oh man, this is a band. This is really cool.
Well, look at how many people, like when Kiko and Lomenzo and Dirk are practicing, and Kiko puts those in every one of his YouTubes, every comment section's like everybody loves just seeing them play, There's a market for it. So I don't know why young people don't seem to want to do a lot of jamming. And that's where you get your chops, I always felt, was playing with people better than you, where you have to perform, you have to go somewhere, you maybe go a little deeper. I'm sure you've had those sessions where you're about to quit, you're getting yelled at, you're just not getting the part, but then you finally nail it because of all that frustration, and it's hard to replicate that. But
yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk about, you had and I looked at Mindflow it looked very successful. But that game you guys did look cool. You guys had an alternate reality game.
Yeah.
About 5 albums, very successful. Yeah. So what happened with the band?
So that's a very long story. I'll try to be as objective as possible so I don't take all your time. But it all started. The Mindflow process. It all started in 1999, and I was living in Australia at the time. And Rodrigo, the guitar player for the band, he used to be one of the 10 people group, Music Lovers, from school.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in class with my older brother. And so he had a band with some of my other friends, and they would cover Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, all that traditional good stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a place there because I was the drummer for another band, and the drummer for that band was another really good friend of mine. So I dig myself a little place in vocals, so I would be the Megadeth singer for that band, and then I really liked it. It was really cool. It was really fun. And little by little, I started to develop this taste for different kinds of rock music, especially progressive rock. That was something that really caught my attention. I was starting to get bored with metal. It was just like not getting my attention anymore. This is like late '90s metal bands. Halloween had put out The Dark Ride, but before that, maybe Better Than Raw, which was a really good album. But even Megadeth, like with Risk, was something too much of ahead of the time for me because Creep to Ridings came right before that and was a killer album.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think it was just part of my development as well as a teenager, and Dream Theater took a lot of it. That aspect of musicality to me was just like, oh my God, I had no idea music could be done this way.
I think those of us that grew up in that time, Dream Theater got all of us.
Oh, dude, it was like undeniable.
Yeah, it was. We all, most of my circle that was in the music went from Dream Theater in the progressive, and then either took a hard left in the jazz or just kind of stayed into the technical metal stuff. But nobody really came back. But it was like that gateway to the real technical stuff, the real heady math. And that was always fun for drums because there's a lot of cool stuff you could do. That was just wicked, that you could get into that these people like Portnoy was doing. My favorite was Gavin Harrison. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah, that guy's like, whoa, another level. Yeah, with Pineapple Thief, I think it's like it's doing and they're doing really well. I just saw like they're doing this tour in Europe, like super arenas. They're doing arenas headlining. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know these guys were doing this
Yeah, he's real humble because he was a session guy for like 20 years. So the rock star part's later for him.
Yeah.
So I did a little website for him and got to be his friend a little bit
Oh wow, that's great.
I got to meet him, and he was just talking to me about gas prices and all this stuff. Like, this is my drum hero, and he's just like, you're a normal person. He just wasn't used to that. This was Porcupine Tree's last tour. I think it was like '07 back then.
Right. And let me ask you something. This I think I might have mistaken. I was referring to Porcupine Tree. I said Pineapple Thief.
He's in
I
both.
don't know. Yeah, but I wanted to say I'm not sure if it was a Porcupine Tree or another one, another band that had this incredible song. But his snare drum, because there's this famous video I've been playing in the studio, and I think his snare drum is like 13-inch. I might be wrong about that. Do you know the measure of his snare drum?
He's had different ones. So back then, I think he did a 13. There was a 13 and a half. But I'll just give you his email after this, and you can ask him.
Oh, dude.
He goes on Drummer World forums and answers everybody's questions, and he has forever.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
He told everybody how to make those little cymbals that he has.
Yeah.
He puts them on a drill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what is it, like bells of broken cymbals that he just cut?
Yeah, he'd put them on a drill and buff them. So he would cut them rough, smaller, so the broken part's gone, they're small. He'd make them different sizes and then buff the edges off. So he'd send me all the pictures of like how he made it, and we could put it up on this website we had for him because he was, it's a fact. He was asking the same thing every time. But it's cool because back then, digital stuff was so new. He had sent me his click track stuff for my I was doing in-ears. We had this one song that was really long and had a lot of changes. So I asked him, how do you do these? Because I know he's not counting 80 measures.
Right.
But, he's putting like, there's a clave, maybe keeping time, and then you'll put a sleigh bell in one bar before you're changing. He taught me that. So I got to use his actual sounds. I felt real cool there for that 1 year.
Wow, that's great, man.
But
I love his playing. I think it's such a unique style and the precision, so much clarity in his creative process. It was just like I remember when Rhythm Illusion came out a long time ago. I think it was late '90s, maybe. early 2000s, possibly.
Yeah, that thing was every.
Um,
I would do that to my bass player. Like I would just move the beat one over. So
yeah,
so I go boom cut boom cut boom cut boom cut boom cut. Couldn't do it.
yeah,
I would do it all the time. But that was from that when he was doing those DVDs and those books.
so much great stuff for sure. Nowadays, like a drummer that I really like listening to and watching play, Stud Zuckerman. I think such a great taste. The stuff that he does with sticks and just the guy talking. I enjoy drummers when I hear them doing an interview and then
Mhm.
you match the personality with the way they play. It's just like, oh man, yeah, that's what's up. Um, so yeah, like the progressive part of it was a big deal for me, and I remember I was already I was at the same time listening to Millen Calling and NoFX and that kind of music, punk rock stuff. I really like the drive, the melody,
Yeah,
harmonies really sticks to me. A lot of passion, and I was surfing every day in Australia, so that was the soundtrack for it. But at the same time, I would, love to listen to Change of Seasons, and really learn the parts and go for the melodies and all that stuff.
that's my favorite
So,
one. It's my favorite. And the drummer wrote the lyrics. Mike Portnoy did that for his mom that passed away in a plane crash.
right, right.
Every Christmas, I throw that whole song on, the whole record, but definitely the Change of Season song itself and let it play. It's just like a tradition.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that song too. And like we were saying, you can tell that's a band. That album sounds like a recorded rehearsal. It doesn't
Yeah,
sound like super. It sounds like they just mic'd everything up in rehearsals, and this is what we have. And those guys played that well. And I mean, obviously,
yeah,
and then Scenes from a Memory came out. And then it's just like, oh my God, get out of here. This is unbelievable. And even like listening to Home, like, oh my God, what is this effect? Like, and then you just start hunting for stuff from different instruments because there's so much interesting stuff
yeah,
going on. And I remember when Rodrigo came to visit me in Australia, and I was like, dude, you gotta listen to this. And Things from a Memory was just like, oh my God, even like Overture 1928, when it starts the lead on that theme,
hmm
that's something I really love. Like I real rather themes over solos
yeah,
because things you remember. And when it starts that, it connects in the end with one last time and finally three and all that stuff. And I say, oh my God, this is so well thought out. Like, um, and I was like, dude, we gotta have our own band. Like I know you have your cover band, I have my wanna be whatever band. But why don't we try, to connect because we were really good friends. I really respected the way he think about things, and we were like 17 at the time. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, let's do it." So I went back to Brazil, and we started get together and just jam. Just jam a lot. We would play a lot together. And then I met Ricardo, the bass player, at a new school that I enrolled myself to finish high school, and he came back from Florida. He went to study English there, but he was more into death metal music kind of stuff,
hmm
more extreme metal, and I was like, oh man, so this is really cool. And so he brought a lot of the Demo Borg gear, kind of stuff, Cradle of Filth, Decide, and stuff that I wasn't like. To me, the edge of metal would be Slayer. That
yeah,
would be the edge of it. And then he was just, nah, there's the theatrical part of it, there's the dramatic part, the symphonic part of it. This European kind of death metal, which is very different. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then it was Rodrigo, Ricardo, and Rafael, the three R's. So it's like trilogy. Oh my God, we're connecting dots here. This is like something is happening, you know.
It's
Like,
meant to be.
yeah, exactly, you know. And so I started writing lyrics, and we didn't have a singer. We just wanted to play, you know. We would spend all of our days whenever we were out of our responsibilities as humans, playing music. And then we started to, okay, let's find a gig, you know, let's play somewhere. So we would play like bird funerals, wherever would have us, pretty much, you know, Tuesday afternoon for no one. Yeah, give it to me, you know. Went to, you know, sharp our teeth on that, you know, get some whiskey on the finger kind of deal. Uh, and to us, that was the challenge, you know, like we didn't have a lot of references of how people did stuff, you know. Social media wasn't a big deal in the 2000s at all. So we would, you know, just try and meet people and get information. But the reality is that nobody knew what they were doing, you know, especially in Brazil. Nobody had a lot of information. So we started to do the thing our own way. And then I was organizing, having a music festival at the high school I was in. And one of the older guy, he played guitar there, and he called me, hey dude, if on the holidays you want to jam, let me know and we'll jam. I said, sure, man. So it was January, and I called him, say, dude, want to jam? Come over. And yeah, so he came in and he opened his trunk and was grabbing his guitar, and there was a keyboard there. I was like, oh, whose keyboard is that? Oh, that's mine. I said, do you play keyboards? Yeah, I've been playing keyboards since I was a kid. Dude, leave the guitar behind, bring the keyboard, you know? And he was fantastic. The guy was just like super natural and great stuff. And
That's amazing. We spent 4 or 5 years trying to find a key player. This town's small, but we never could. Because like we wanted to do progressive stuff too. So, you know, you want a keyboard player. That's the holy grail. And just wow, that did line up well for you guys. This guy's just
it did. And just like out of if that keyboard wasn't in his trunk, I would never know. You know, that was really interesting. And then we did a jam and, you know, just started to spend time together and making those connections, you know, the chemistry part of it. That's huge. And like you were saying, you know, oh, let's try this, let's try it again, let's try it again. And when you hit it, it hits the sweet spot. It's like, oh my God, this works. Oh my God, how can we create that effect? And, you know, I was a drummer. I didn't have a lot of theory knowledge. And so oh, let's play this key with that key and then go into that one and we'll create that effect. And we will bring up different songs to references. And so that was a lot of research and developing and discovery together. And that put us together really nicely. And then we would, you know, just perform instrumentally wherever we could. Then one guy introduced us. We were seriously looking for a singer. Then this guy that knew another guy, that knew another guy, knew a producer that had like 10 guys that he knew and just sent us a bunch of CDs. And I remember we were listening like the fourth CD. And you don't need to listen the whole thing, you know. You listen the guy starts singing, you know. So we were like on the fourth band, and we had Danilo singing Dolphins Cry from Life, you know, and it was just like the beginning was like, oh my God, this is so nice. And then it hits the chorus and it's all there and secure. And it's like, oh man, this guy sounds like the real deal, you know, can we meet this guy? And I said, yeah, sure. That's Danilo, you know. And so he came over to our rehearsal space and super simple, super humble guy. He knew my name, which was really cool. Because we had this little website, you know, going on. And then, oh, Rafael, nice to meet you, man. And he was always talking like this, super, you know, gentle. And I was like, oh man. I said, hey, dude, do you want to sing? Do you want to do a song? No, not really. You know, I haven't warmed up, and I'm just yeah. Oh my God, this is like you're killing me, dude. Come on, give me something, you know. But I was like, okay, I get it. You know, go home. We have this song that we wrote. We were planning to record an album already, so we were just waiting on the singer to show up. And I had the melody, I had the lyrics, and I just gave the tape to him, saying, "Go home, come back next week, and we'll give it a try." So sure, yeah, let's do it. And next week arrived, he came in, and it was just like, oh my God. And he could do these harmonies and like even play as a ventriloquist. He would like talk because you have this condenser microphone, and he would talk to you like without opening his mouth. And so, and I thought, we were recording it wrong. So where is this coming from? It was just fooling us. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah, like he would do really high. He had this knowledge of harmonics and let me do another voice here. Let me do another one here. Let me add this to this. And even like the range was like he could go from Michael Kiske to Lemmy almost with this growling technique. It was amazing. And 6 months went by, and I'm like, dude, are you in the band or are you not? We're about to record an album. I'm gonna put all my life savings in this shit. Are you in? Sure, man. Yeah, if you guys want me, I said, dude, can we be more excited about this? But it was just his style. That's the way he was. And great guy. I love him forever.
It's amazing when they can do their harmonies like that.
Yeah.
My singer could do that too. He knew exactly where to go. He didn't know theory. He didn't know the intervals or anything like that. He just knew right where to put his voice and how much was too much,
Right.
But
that's incredible.
It just seems like this band just fell right in. It's kind of like just meant to be.
Yeah, and like we went to studio. It was a whole different thing. We did the first album, and we didn't edit anything. We didn't have a proper music producer.
That'd be expensive back then.
And there wasn't a guy. Nobody was editing music for us. They would do for bigger, like Angra. Yeah, they would bring someone from Europe, and the guy would be 30 years into the career, and yeah, sure, that's how we do records. We didn't know that, but we were really proud of what we've done, and then we started to look for deals, and that's how our first tour came about. And then whatever we couldn't do in the first album, we took it to the second album. And then we didn't have enough money to do how we wanted to do. So we rent out the studio for 30 days, 24 hours. And it's just like recording and mixing in 30 days. And on top of that, we will be developing the artwork and the game and all that stuff. And so Mindflow started to create a niche. No, go ahead.
People need to understand how hard it is to make a game by itself in the midst of an album. And then we're talking about a period of time. People need to understand too that you're not punching drums back then. You're doing the take and that's it.
Yeah.
You're not editing drums. You're going the tape and you have a limited amount. And so even the guitar players have to think, do I really want to waste a punch right here?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a whole different game back then.
Yeah, it was really different. I mean, you can listen to a lot of flaws in the album, which is great.
I miss those flaws. It used to be fun trying to find them. Like, oh, that's a flub. You understand because you've also made the same flubs. Now it's just like I could just sit there in Pro Tools and just do whatever I want.
And dude, if we had the tools at the time, we probably would have done it. The post-production kind of thing. Probably would have done it because that's how our records are done. But I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad that's tattooed forever, and because you can see the development through the years and how it all happened later in life. And then we would play in festivals, and then our fan base. By that time we had an office. When it came to the second album, because all of our decisions were being made in a rehearsal space,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then I remember Rodrigo, he was the more mature guy. He had experiences working, managing companies and all that stuff at a really young, early age. And I remember he had the guitar in his lap, and we were making a decision. It was like, dude, we should have an office space. It's an office space. What are we gonna do in an office? So believe me, there's a lot to be done. I don't know either right now, but we should. And then we start to develop our own distribution network. We our own booking system, which would be ourselves calling and selling CDs and all that stuff. And every Tuesday, 4 p.m., we'd sit on a big table. It's like a war room kind of thing. And so, what are we doing next week? What are we doing next? And then we developed the street team, which was like a great thing for the band because no band in Brazil had that before.
Yeah.
And even the game, like not many bands did that. Even at that time and even today, I think Dream Theater is something like that with the Astonishing, which I don't even know how that went
I
about.
I could think of a TV show that did it called Burn Notice. They did a little game. It's rare. It's rare enough to where it's like it's amazing you did that. But what you said, the guy wanted an office. This is the kind of stuff that's in the mentorship with Kiko all the time. But it's the people that stop and make that choice that go the furthest. We weren't doing that. We didn't have an office. We didn't look at it like a business.
Yeah,
That's a very important message for people listening. Is deciding to work the band like a business is huge.
absolutely, absolutely. And it starts to show up the need for it really, really quick. Because in the end of the day, you're selling a product. How do you sell your product? Well, it's kind of contradictory. A lot of musicians choose that line of work because they don't want to be in an office.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you need to be in an office. You need to spend time in an office, or if you can afford, yeah, sure, hire people, but not usually the case. And so yeah, learn it, get involved with it. And luckily enough, everybody in the band had uh, you know an eye for something.
mm-hmm.
So Rodrigo, he was always kind of the visionary guy. He'd always had these cool ideas, and not just throwing out an idea, but also implementing it. How can we do this? Or he would say, "Hey guys, I'm thinking about this. Have you guys seen anything like that? What do you think about that?" And we'd always look up to the bands that we liked, and success leaves clues. So you always look at how those bands did it, and
Mm-hmm.
how can that be done. And I remember we wanted to do like a street team website. We didn't have money for it, but we were like, sure, let's learn it. And then Ricardo, the bass player, just bought a book on how to program a website, and he did it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like unbelievable. Look at the people that I have around me. And Danilo was the artwork designer, and I was just like the lucky one, because I never saw much value on what I was bringing, because I think that's a good thing at the time as well, because then you don't get cocky.
Yeah.
But I was kind of connecting the dots. The band connected through mean based common kind of thing. We don't, that was the main point of object. And I always tried to create, as much as I could, create a safe environment for everybody to be well together. And
Well, that's a drummer.
right?
That's a drummer. You glue everybody together. You glue the band together. You did it behind the kit and in front of it.
That's a great way to say it. And even meeting bar owners, hey, can I bring my band? All that kind of stuff. I was more kind of out there trying to get the band together.
Yeah, networking's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And and especially after that, networking, there's a lot of people that, especially, so we started touring. Started meeting some managers online. I was taking care of the MySpace page, and our MySpace got pretty big because there was this guy starting this game. Was a emulation of Guitar Flash, or Guitar Hero, which called Guitar Flash at the time.
I remember.
And he just contacted our office and was like, "Hey guys, do you guys have your music in MIDI files?" And we had it because we would do the tracks
Yeah.
when we were getting ready to record. That's how we did click track, GP4 and all that stuff. So yeah, and then we became friends with the guy, and we were the first band that he did that. And then, dude, it just exploded. There was this network called Orkut, Orkut, and in Brazil was a guy from Turkey that did that one. And in Brazil, for some reason, got really, really big. So there were these forums and communities, and people would always share their results playing Guitar Flash on that, because PlayStation was much more expensive. Everybody kind of had it in home, so they could play it. It was pretty much the same, template, same design. And we had like 7 songs in that game, so we kind of became the poster boys for that stuff. So that kind of just threw us out there, for that community online and stuff like that. So that helped a lot to
At this time, MySpace was, for people that don't know, it had an embedded music player that was huge. It was the only social media in town, really, and it had an embedded music built right in. So this made so many bands blow up, like you're saying, even without the game. And I remember, like Dane Cook, the comedian, built his entire career off MySpace.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he just posted all this comedy up there as videos or in the player. It might sound funny now to people to hear MySpace, but back then that was a seriously big marketing tool for music.
It was the biggest. It was the biggest. There was nothing even close to that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was really cool, and that helped us a lot. So we started getting contact from management. Well, at that time, we had done the 3rd record, Destructive Device, and it was really interesting because, again, Rodrigo, he was like, he's a very important guy in my life, a very close friend. And, I remember when we were meeting for one day, and I got into his car. We were going out for a burger or something. And he was just playing 10,000 Fists from Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember exactly the name of the song, but it started with the drum groove on the toms. Boogie the gap, boogie the gap, boogie the gap, boogie the gap. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds unbelievable. What is this? Oh, this is Disturbed. And hang on. My God, and so, yeah, this is Disturbed. And, said, oh my God, but who mixed this stuff? Oh, it's this guy from LA called Ben Gross. And I was like, damn, this is amazing. Well, and that was it for me, and he goes, I would like this guy to make our next record. I was like, what? What are you talking about, dude? Like, yeah, kind of deal, like, how do you do that? There's not like there's in the yellow pages or something like that, like, and on top of that, how much that costs, how you bring a A-level producer to do your album. We were barely making anything. We were like struggling to keep the structure function, because we all had jobs.
Yeah.
Like, everything's so expensive. But yeah, let's look. I said, dude, I mean, I don't want to be offensive here, but how do we get in touch with a guy like this? And said, well, I already did. I found his website. There's a studio, and that you already did. I said, so what's up now? So, well, he's coming to our show in LA. So what? So we had this tour booked. We were booking the tours, playing to nobody, that kind of stuff, driving ourselves and all that stuff. And he showed up at the Knitting Factory on on Hollywood, where now it's that gym for LA Fitness. Used to be a big complex of venues, and so we played a small one, and the guy was there, and I was like, oh my god, and I thought I did my best to play and impress the guy, but once you meet the guy, nothing much impresses the guy. He already had done Ramstein before, and all these band Disturbed, all these huge bands. So now you're not impressing anyone, dude. So that was a humbling lesson for me, in a way, because he was much more simpler than I would expect. And I remember talking to him and say, well, so thank you for coming. He said, no, this is great, man. You guys are really good together, and at the time he had a girlfriend from Brazil, and she was from Bahia. And so, well, I really could use some time in Brazil, and it makes sense. So yeah, let's do it. So what? So getting down to the numbers, we were so lucky. My wife worked at this pharmacy company, so she had a huge, like 85% discount rate on hotel rooms, and we were able to afford that. And then he needed a car. We were talking to his manager at the time. He needed a car, and then the guitar player's sister went out of town for work, so we had a spare car we could lend him. And it was just like things falling into place. It's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable that we can actually make this happen. And so he would stay with us for 8 hours at our little office, with his computer working on the songs. We had the songs ready. We thought they were ready, and we just send them his way, and he would stay 8 hours nonstop working on it. Then we send the file to me and to go practice, see how this feels. And yeah, a lot of it had just vanished. 13-minute songs would be like 6-minute songs, and then we started to, oh my God, dude, what is this guy doing? Do we really
Was
want this?
was this the first time an outsider was touching your creative process?
Yeah, that did, yeah, in that depth for sure. And then we were like, oh man, do we really want this? But at the same time, we were like, dude, we're investing a lot of money to be able to work with this guy. Let's do things this way. Let's learn from him. And then whatever he says, it goes. Um, and then we spent 45 days in Brazil together, and then Christmas was just like around the corner. He spent Christmas on the plane actually because it was a cheaper flight. And then in January, we went to his studio to track vocals and guitars. And we were there for like 45 days also. And then we really saw how an album is done.
Yeah, I bet.
That's like, oh my God, so that's how it's done. So it was a college kind of experience for us, and I remember he was like, okay, so tomorrow I'm gonna start doing the rough mixes, which I had no idea what was that. And to people who are watching this, rough mixes is pretty much, what the word says. You start to level up what the big mass sound is coming about. Instead of bringing up like 100 channels, you start with like 6, 7, just giving an idea of what it's gonna be the big mass like. And I was like, no, I'm gonna be here. I want to watch this. You're not coming into my room while I do this. So yeah, just go take a walk, go to the beach, whatever. I said, no, I'm staying here. So okay, like bring up the DVDs, and it was really interesting. And I remember we got there at 9 a.m. and he was there already. And he didn't stop until 7 p.m., like working on one song kind of thing. And I remember we were watching, and that's interesting because you start to lose perspective of who you're working with. We were watching the 1.5 years in the making from Metallica, the making of the Black Album. And when the credits were coming up, and I saw Ben in the doorway, and was just waiting for us to be done with it. And I was like, oh man, that was cool. And Ben was like, oh, you guys like Bob Rock? And I was like, oh, wow, man, the guy did the Black Album. What can you say? It's just like out of this world, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so disconsiderate to whom I was talking to, but I didn't realize at the time because I was the guy for 90 days, it's like kind of. And he was telling me the story of a Disturbed album that Warner has sent out, 3 songs to 3 different producers to who's going to mix this. And one of them was Bob Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say anything else, oh, that happened. And so, a lot of people would, it's okay. So what happens next? No need to say anything because he makes the record, and I was like, oh my God, damn, dude. So I walk into the mix room and he was like, okay, this is just a rough mix, see how it feels. And once he pressed plays, I was like, damn, this is like, oh my God, now I have a record that actually sounds like an American band, production level wise, it's all there. It sounds beautiful. And I remember in the end of it,
That's something I wish everybody could experience too, is that first hearing your band through nice monitors that's properly recorded with all the nice outboard gear. You're like, oh, because we would try so hard to find because we couldn't afford mics. So we're looking on forums on how to mic drum kits with 3 mics, these different methods, and just never work. But when you first get in there, like you're saying, and you hear it, and with this guy, it probably was world class just off his rough mix. It's just an amazing thing to hear.
Absolutely. And it's kind of, watering my eyes almost, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And this is like almost 10 years into the band, we never had that. I was like, this is unreal. And we had gone into studio twice, but nobody had done that kind of depth into the mix, and I remember, like, once the song finished, he looked at the guitar player Rodrigo and said, any comments? And Rodrigo, no, to me, this is great. And he goes, what about you, Rafael? Do you have anything you want to add? I said, dude, this is unbelievable, but you think maybe, perhaps, any chance we can bring up a little bit more toms? And he goes, well, there's no toms yet. This is just like, there's 3 channels in the drums. You're using 21 channels. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? I better shut up. How much this is going to change into the final mix? And I go, well, about 45%, And I was like, oh my God, this is, just do your thing, man. This is like unreal. And it's interesting because when we listened to the rough mix, the drums sounded very much like Falling to Infinity from Dream Theater. Like this big room. You can hear the close mics, but you hear a lot of the room as well, and the snare and the harmonics on all those tonalities coming out of the harmonics. It's just
a lot of room personality mixed in it that we all want.
Exactly.
There was a lot of dry shit. Back in the early 2000s, all the new metal bands were just going super dry. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There's no reverb on any drums. Just put that fucking mic through the head if you can. It was so dry.
Yeah, you can say that, like, Korn had a lot of that.
Yeah,
Linkin Park was a lot of that. It was just the style that it was coming to
yeah,
play.
just yeah, exactly. It wasn't, it wasn't bad. Well, I didn't like it, but it just was kind of a trend. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a big trend, and even like Maiden came out with Brave New World in 2000, and the drums like so live, and the
Mhm.
harmonics on the snare is like the opposite of everything. And even Metallica with Saint Anger, like, oh my God, this maybe too
Oh,
much.
they went too far. There was a
Yeah,
guy just the other day on Instagram. You might have saw him. He was hitting a keg of beer with a baseball bat for the snare. Did you
I
see him?
saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
But
Maybe Slipknot could pull that off.
yeah, they
Um,
made it on purpose. But
yeah,
so you guys you're getting there. You're in your first big
we were, we were.
production.
Yeah, and then that gave us a lot of confidence to push, keep pushing, keep pushing. I was on MySpace looking for managements. At that point, I understood we needed a good management office. We need a booking agent. Stuff that I had no idea even existed before. Um, and then there was this guy that, yeah, I really like to work with you guys, and I can get you guys on a tour and blah blah blah. So okay, so if we're gonna do this, I need to meet you in person. So Rodrigo and I we went to United States and sat down with the guy and heard all the lies and all that stuff. And
Surely
but
not.
he actually put off a tour for us. When we toured with UFO, we did 2 tours with UFO, which
Wow.
was really cool. Those guys are the best.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an icon.
Yeah, yeah, he was great, but the booking agent pulled that together, and but we had problems because the manager at the time didn't solve our visa situation, and we could be in really trouble. And then the booking guy said, "I can work with you guys. This is like land
Uh,
of maturity." So that was like, oh my God, I hate you. Get out of my life, kind of deal. And then we moved back to Brazil and not stopping. Let's keep looking for guys. And then I met another manager, and then I went back to States, and that time just by myself. And at that point, I felt the band was kind of getting tired of frustrating experiences. We were, 12 years in the making at that point.
yeah.
So it was like, and life is happening at the same time. Like um, that job that you were an intern at some point, now you're a director, then you're CFO, and
Mm,
certainly you're making money, serious money on that. So how much time do I have to invest in this music thing that
right.
I've been doing for 12 years? And it's just like so natural. It happens in such a natural way. Girlfriends becomes wife becomes mother, and
Mhm.
priorities shift. But to me, so I went there and I was like, man, if this meeting is really bad, I'm gonna roll myself into Musicians Institute, and I'm gonna do this one way or another. And I had a big plan. My plan was just like, I'm gonna be the best drummer the world has seen, and it's easy. Like it's just like it's gonna be undeniable. Of course,
That's
that's not how it happened.
it's the John Mayer plan. John
That's the
Mayer. John Mayer
how
thought
come.
he thought he was just going to go be the best guitar player on the planet. Went to, I think, GIT. That was Berkeley. He went to
All right.
Berkeley and decided that he can't be the best guitar player. So he decided to be a good songwriter. Yeah, I think we
Oh,
all have that. Well, I'm just going to out practice everybody. I went
yeah.
through that phase too. And it's like, that's hard to go to just to have only that. It's not tenable.
And that's not enough. That's
Yeah,
not
it's
enough.
not.
That's not even close to enough. But I went to the meeting with the guy, and the meeting went great. I heard all the lies, I believed them all, and a few months later we had a tour, and we were part of this Live Nation tour. Was a different thing. We had our own tour bus. That was a new thing because we were traveling a bandwagon. So now we have a tour bus. Now we have a crew. Now we have a tour manager. Now we have endorsement deals, and this was like, oh my God, we're really close. We're really close.
Is this where you were doing the vlogs on your band channel? I saw some videos of you guys.
Vlogs we were doing. No, we started doing vlogs in 2008.
This looked like you had a pretty nice bus, the one I saw. It looked.
Yeah, that was a nice bus. That was in 2013. That was our last tour. That was our only tour on a tour bus. And we were doing this Live Nation run, and Live Nation agents would just approach us and, so what's the deal with you guys? Like, how come you guys are in this tour? Because the headlining for that tour was the Used, which is a very different demographic for us.
Yeah, that's not going to be your audience at all. No.
No, but we had to jump in on a tour.
Oh yeah,
that's how things happen. And I remember Daniel White, the drummer for the Used, such a cool guy, and he approached me one day and said, "Dude, why are you guys on this tour? You should be on tour with Evanescence, like bands like that, an older demographic." And I was like, "Dude, yeah, management talks, like, oh, okay, yeah, well, things happen in weird ways, whatever." And then in the end of that tour, we got in a huge fight with the manager at the time. I felt he didn't show up for the LA show, and to me that was very frustrating.
yeah.
He wanted Buddy to show up on that, and I was like, "Dude, no, what are you doing?" And so that was a big bucket of cold water. But at the same time, we had Live Nation guys looking to work with us. When does your contract expire? You guys looking to maybe move to the States? All that was kind of starting to be a possibility. So once we finished that show at the Wiltern in LA, we went back to the bus and, pretty much getting ready to go home. And I was like, "Guys, let's stay. We have the visa. We can't make this happen. Let's just stay." But, it wasn't the same for everybody anymore, rightfully so. And then, it was just more like, maybe we can do this 4 weeks out of the year, keep using our, holidays from the real work to come here and do a tour. And I was like, oh man. And so, we all went back to Brazil. It was a big bucket of cold water for me. And then I just starting to let go, going to the office, we didn't know much what we were doing. I felt that way, I can't say that for those guys, but I felt that way. And I was looking to find the truth in the bottom of the bottle kind of thing, and before I knew, I needed help. And so I went to therapy. And, I remember I didn't believe in anything of psychology, treatment, therapy kind of deal, even though my brother's one. So I remember having 6 sessions. And on the 6th session, I canceled the 7th. And the lady was like, "Well, I thought we were doing good progress here, but, I totally understand, it's up to you. Do you mind asking if I asked you why you choose to do this?" So, well, I'm moving to LA, I'm doing this one way or the other, and I just have to. I couldn't bear the thought of having 1,000 pasts and no future. What if? And, the bug was in me. I had the tour bug. I gotta find out. So I took all my life savings and was just exploded into the wall and was like, "I'm gonna do this." I rolled myself in my, and I didn't tell the band guys until I had a ticket, I had a visa, I had everything in place because I didn't want to generate stress, unnecessary stress. And once I had everything in place, I was like, guys, this is what's going on. I really think that I should do this, and you know, this is what I'm doing. And they were all like, dude, go,
Yeah.
go, absolutely, go do this, and who knows what can happen, and if you need anything from us, just let us know. The band won't don't have to stop. But of course, it took a hiatus on that. Um, but they were like super supportive, which brought me back to 14 years prior. Those
Yeah.
guys were still there, and I was like, oh man, this is unbelievable. We
Back to
never
step
had a fight. We never had a fight in 14 years.
Okay,
What were
so
you saying?
there's been like 8 or 9 things you said that's super rare for a band that's just mind blowing. That's one. Never had a fight in 14 years. That's not common for a band,
No.
anybody, any group of people. When your guitar player had already contacted the producer guy,
Yeah.
that's rare. Like half of what Kikor does with the mentorship people is try to convince us to do this shit that you guys were just doing. It's like you guys did everything right, and still it's hard, and still it's didn't quite work exactly. But you go anyway, right? So you're going back.
Yeah, I'm
And
going
that's
back.
that thing nobody like. I don't know if I would have went back. Like that's what I'm trying to learn. It's how to be more like you. That's amazing. This whole thing,
But it's not like calculated risk. It's much more based on instinct than
but it's all
anything else.
risk. I mean,
It's all risk.
to get
It's
where you're
all
going, you have to risk your life savings. You have to risk leaving the therapy session, coming to the States, and maybe failing. You have to risk all. I mean, those of us that didn't make it didn't take the risk. It's a lot of that.
yeah. What's the alternative? Once we would take a risk, what's the alternative on not taking that risk?
Yeah,
What if I take my life savings and I started financing an apartment for the next 30 years? I'm never gonna try that again.
yeah,
I'm probably not even gonna touch drums. I'll probably find a job which will give me some money, enough money to keep the bug sleeping,
hmm,
and I don't want to go back there. And then I would be a bar prophet, you
yeah,
know, drink myself to the point where, oh yeah, we almost made it. Like dozens of guys does at the Rainbow every night, like I just couldn't see myself in that. I just felt that I needed to try. I needed to do it all before
yeah.
I calm myself down.
And I was in the
Um,
band where we didn't try. We gave up too easy and didn't get anywhere. It's a tale as old as time. But now, so you work in Megadeth, and
now,
you're,
yeah,
as Kiko put it, you're Dave's assistant. But as you said,
yeah,
you're kind of just a high level operations guy, and you're also Vic. Though that's a cool
yeah.
thing.
Like I am Dave's assistant, but I have to be available for the band.
Yeah, so it's
So
just like you're just like
yeah, technically, yeah. I have to be a band assistant, but yeah, like I'm Dave's guy, but also I'm production coordinator guy, and which is I work a lot close with the tour manager, and my job I see as I have to do my best to make sure that everybody in the crew is comfortable doing what they're doing. That's not like a job description for me, but that's how I feel. I need to make sure that you have everything you need to do your job right. So if it's bring me 2 bananas, I'll go get you the bananas, man. It's no problem. But Kiko's like the band guys, they're super easy. Kiko like would say, "Can I get a salad?"
yeah.
And that's it. They're super easy guys.
I'll tell you,
And
him and Dirk pulled me back in the band because I was kind of as a fan, lost in those years where the band was just kind of hired guns in a way. And Kiko and Dirk coming in, there's a whole bunch of us that have reconnected to Megadeth based on that, because Megadeth was my kiss. You know, my
Right. That's cool.
I got into Metallica first, and when I discovered Megadeth, it was like, well, this is just Metallica turned up. Megadeth always, even when he was doing the different lineups, the product was right. You're going to get,
Right.
and then Dystopia and The Sick, The Dying, and the Dead, to me, that feels like the 90s again, where it's everything's as it should be, you know? So it's a really exciting time to be a Megadeth fan. And I got to see the show back in October in Arkansas here. And
Oh,
I got to be side stage with Kiko for Five Finger Death Punch, and he didn't have a lanyard for me. So I got, he loves that I tell this story because it makes him seem like he did something wrong, but really he had to go. Like he got paged, you know? So he had to run. So we left, we're leaving, and this Live Nation guy sitting out there, he's like, oh, somebody's here that's not supposed to be. How'd you get, you know, this guy, I'm sure thought he was getting fired. But it was a great show, and it's so nice to see the band doing so well.
that show you referred to, was that the Walmart theater?
Yeah.
Theater?
Yeah, that's the Walmart Theater.
Oh,
It must have
dude,
been
I
like
love
second
that
to
venue.
last. That's the
Yeah.
first time I've been there. That's not, normally we go to St. Louis or Kansas City. This is closer, and it's a nicer venue than up there.
I love that venue, man. I love it. It's so nice to work there, and we always have a great weather there. It's just a big parking lot for the trucks and the buses.
It was
It's
a nice
nice,
day, yeah.
Yeah, I love that place. I always remember that show, man. Did we meet?
No,
No? Okay.
I didn't get to meet anybody in Megadeth.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And it was, I swear it was like maybe the second to last show. Everybody was real tired. I was lucky to even get to go side stage, and it was a lot of fun. But the last time I'd seen Megadeth was they had Korn opening for them in the 90s. So,
Oh, wow.
So I saw him, you know, that tour, that must have been around Euthanasia. But that was one of my favorite records, to be honest.
95, 96.
Yeah, 95. It had to be that. I wasn't driving it. But it's just, the product's just been consistently good. But let's, you know, your story, we're at the fun part, though, where you didn't give up. You went back to the States. How'd you get to where you are now? And then let's talk about what advice you give somebody that wants to work in music today.
Yeah. You know, I moved to LA exactly in 2013, October 2013, the day after Megadeth played with Black Sabbath in São Paulo. So I went to that show. The following day, I moved to LA. And I was just enrolling myself at MI with the John Mayer plan. I'm gonna be the guy. And it was weird because I was over 30. I had 31 at the time. And so really risky move to do that at, you know, a later age, because you need time to develop things, you know, and sometimes time is not on your side. And so at the same time, I needed to get social and meet people and all that stuff. So I remember one day I went by myself to the Rainbow Bar on Sunset, and I bumped into Kiko, and I was like, "Dude, what are you doing here?" You know, because we were at the same office, our bands, for a little bit in Brazil, and it was like, "Oh man, I moved here," and so where are the band guys? No, I moved by myself. Oh wow. How about you? Yeah, just moved in like last week. Where are the band guys? No, by myself, man. It's like, oh, dude, get my number and, you know, let's keep in touch. And sure, but you know, Kiko was always busy. He was always out of town. He was always doing Ibanez clinics and all that stuff. And I was busy with also MI, and but every now and then we would jump on a phone call. We would even he would show up at MI to do a clinic or something, and we would go out for coffee and just talk about life, how things are doing with you. And once I was getting close to graduate from MI, I was like, okay, I need a plan now. What am I gonna do? So I had Mindflow has had all this backline at a warehouse in Denver because that's where we stopped last tour. And I called the band guys and I was like, guys, we have all this gear. I'm gonna drive there, grab all this stuff, and I'm gonna put up a rehearsal room, a studio. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna stop paying the warehouse and just get all this gear. Okay, you guys want me to sell this? What do you guys want to do? I said, dude, use it, do whatever you want with it. I said, cool. So I flew in, grabbed all the stuff, drove back, and found a rehearsal space. Then I got a couple friends at MI to, guys, let's do this. Get a rehearsal room. Let's try to make it a place of culture and where people might hang out and just use our room to, rehearse, and maybe we can do something. I didn't have all the answers, but we gotta get moving on this thing. And so we started doing that. And then I had before I got the room, I was sharing an apartment with another Brazilian drummer, 18 years old, and he had this band that they moved to MI, but the whole band did move. And those guys, weekends they would come over to my place and just drink beers, all teenager stuff too, and they saw all this gear there, and the guys, dude, what is this? So, oh, that's from my band. What is your band? So I would show them the CD, tell about the game, and they were like, dude, you gotta help us make our record. But it was all beer talk.
Yeah.
And like a few weeks later, the guitar player called me and said, hey, let's meet for lunch. I said, well, lunch is different, not like too many beers sound like. And so he was like, I really want you to help us do the record. I'm not a producer, I'm not a sound engineer, but I worked with several good ones. I kind of know what's needed from a guy in that position. So I called a couple guys that did MI with me, and I was like, guys, this is the situation we have on. You guys want to jump in with me? I'm going to develop a plan. So I was kind of doing the executive part of it without knowing that I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys, brought up to their parents or their investor, and they thought it was a good idea. It was a decent, honest offer. So we started doing that, and then that led to another job. And then before I knew, I was working with this country artist, and she was really young. She was working with not very experienced musicians from MI, and the drummer was a good friend of mine, and he was like, dude, Christy, she booked a few shows, but she doesn't know how to tour. She never done it. Can you talk to her? So sure, yeah. So I sat down with her, explained, oh wow, what you need is a tour manager. If you need to set up prices for the artists, that's how you're gonna do this. And so just like job describing what she needed. And in the end of it, she goes, how much would you charge me to do that? I was like, whoa, I'm not selling anything here. So, but give me 24 hours, I'll put something together. I didn't want to do this in the beginning, but at the same time, it was kind of a liberating moment, because that would leave me at the same stage as Mindflow in 2007. I don't think I want to do that again. Travel in the car and playing for no one, that kind of deal. I was like, oh my God. But at the same time, it was something, get that out of your system kind of thing, and see if that's what you want to do. And meanwhile, I would meet with Kiko and he would go, say, dude, what's going on? I said, dude, I have this idea now, developing a curriculum for up and coming artists, because all the dreams get crushed between, first rehearsals, first show, first album. That's where all the lies are being told to you. And, it's really dangerous zone. And usually at that point, you don't have experience, you don't know many people, you haven't heard all the stories, you're just believing the dream. And so I started to develop the curriculum for this artist. And I told Kiko, dude, this is what I'm doing. Dude, that's actually a really cool idea. You can do this, you can do that. And Kiko is like that,
Oh yeah.
you just throw something at him and he would just like digest it immediately and just like give you different shapes and formats in such a instant way. And oh, dude, that's really cool. You can, okay, all right, I'll see you next month or so. And then, we did one tour with that girl and it went well. Then we started doing a second one. And then her father um, had a different plan for her. So he approached me and was like, oh, I don't think we're going to work together anymore. I think maybe she's going to be Nashville based. So, well, that's, best of luck to her. Thank you for all this time. And I was thinking, oh man, what am I going to do now? I had a few months of rent and what's next? And I was sitting down at her grandmother's house and thinking what I'm doing. I'm waiting to drive the band for the last show. I'm in Arizona. I have to drive the band back the day after. And my phone gets a WhatsApp text from Kiko. And he goes, dude, I know you're on the road, but tell me your height and weight. And I'm like, oh man. So right away I said, dude, either you're sending a hitman for me or you guys need a new Vic. And he was like, ha ha ha, yeah, we need a new Vic. I said, damn, when? Tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, San Bernardino with Black Sabbath. I said, oh my God. So, dude, I'm driving the band to the last show. Give me a few hours. I really need to organize this. I goes, dude, a few hours. You have like 10 minutes. Everybody's making calls. Somebody's gonna get it. I was like, oh my God. So I call my wife, explain what's going on, say, hi, honey. And she's like, oh, I'm so happy you're coming home tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, honey, well, Megadeth. And she said, yeah, of course. Well, I got the call. What do you mean you got the call, And she said, well, and she was so furious about it. And I was like, oh, when your mom's mad at you and she goes, well, do whatever you want kind of thing. So she did the same, but I took it. I was like, okay, thank you, bye. Kiko, just give me the coordinates, leave somebody on standby if I cannot make it. But, I'm going to be there. I said, okay, dude, yeah, great. So then getting into the place was a different challenge. They didn't leave a pass for me, and I had general admission tickets. I had to talk my way through every security level barricade.
Some guy shows up. I'm Vic. You don't understand. I'm Vic.
Exactly. And the band is line checking. The techs are line checking. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to miss this for 5 minutes. No. But, it happened. And that day, I didn't meet anyone properly, was so rushed. And then the following day, we had 2 days off. And then I met the band in Seattle. And that's when I met Dave. That's when I met the production team. But I was just doing Vic. That was it. That was just Vic. After that tour finished in October, I kept bugging management. Give me a chance. But there wasn't any tours going on, but every week I would send an email.
Planting that seed.
Yeah. And then in March 2017, January 2017, they was going to be at NAMM and Anaheim. And I was like, okay, this is my chance to talk to Dave. I got to talk to Dave. So I go to NAMM. I get in line for a guitar string company and just needed to have a chance to talk to the guy and wait 2 hours in line and sitting in front of Dave and say, hey, Dave, you remember me? And Dave looks at me and goes, dude, what are you doing here? I said, Dave, I really need to talk to you and really need a chance. And dude, come down, talk to my assistant there, So I talked to the guy in management and the guy, meet us 3 p.m. somewhere. And then I was like, oh my God, this is not going to happen again. So I see Dave walk into the elevator. I go after him. I say, Dave, please let me have a moment with you. I said, yeah, sure, come on in. So we go into a guitar company that he used to be endorsed, and wait there for 10 minutes. And I'm so nervous. I'm so uncomfortable. Just position myself behind the door. So everybody that would come in would bump the door into me.
Yeah.
It's
Did you have an idea what you were going
oh,
to say, or were you just going to wing it?
I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I had a few seconds to convince him of something. And so once they approached me, dude, what are you doing here? I said, Dave, I really enjoyed the tour. I know I can help a lot. There's a lot of me that you don't know, and I can help. Please give me a chance. And they, whoa, 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 easy, easy there. So just give me a hug, and I don't do any of the hiring. Management does the hiring, but if it comes to a vote, you have my vote. And like then there was the boot camp at his house in Fallbrook in San Diego. I was there for the weekend. And that was the turning point for me where I was like, thank you, Dave. This is great, but I'm not going to call anymore. Been calling for 6 months straight. Um, I rather be remembered as a guy that did an okay job than just a pushy guy. So a few weeks later, I got a call to do production assistant for a US run. And then little by little, I started to get closer to Dave and, the band. And in the end of that year, the whole crew got fired, and then the renovation started. And, I like to think that there was a lot of contribution towards that aspect of how the mentality should be if you're working for Megadeth. Like, nobody's done until everybody's done. DM stands for decision maker and not Dave Mustaine kind of thing. Because Dave likes to be involved in all that stuff. And, he should be, because, Dave is really fair guy. If you're working with him, he's a very, very fair guy. And he'll give you a week to get all the tools you need to do your job properly. And after that week, you'll say, "Do you have everything you need? Is everything according to your characteristics?" So yeah, okay, so let's make this happen. And it's really cool to work with a band like that because in the end of the day, to me, going back to the Mindflow years, all I ever wanted is to be part of a high performance level creative organization, and that's one of the biggest ones and most traditional, most important ones ever. And to be able to little by little get a little more trust and be able to, bring suggestions. And then when the movie came about, the Vic thing came about, to me was like very satisfying accomplishment. And I remember when we were doing the first videos, I said, Dave, remember when I went to NAM to talk to you? And he was like, no, I don't remember that. I was like, well, this is what I had in mind, but it took me 6 years to get to this point.
No, that's a really important point. So it took 6 years to get to that point from
once I got into Megadeth.
So, and then how many years was it from ending things with the therapist in Brazil and coming and getting to here? That's a lot of years, 10 years. And then before that was 12 years or more with the band?
13.
13 years. So this stuff's not fast. And it was like,
it's like a quarter of a century in the making.
And some of the stuff's like, again, most of us don't have the patience to play the long game for 6 years like that. And that's impressive. But that's the kind of tenacity I think people need to learn about.
But Richard, that's the key thing, man. And that's something that I learned, from Rodrigo, because he would always say that, but I never understood it because he's a Buddhist. And a lot of people think Buddhism is a religion. It's not. It's a practice. It's a lifestyle. And in Japan, we were in Japan recently, and it was my first time in Japan, and it was so interesting because since they don't have the religion aspect of things, it's all about the code of honor.
Yeah.
It's all about the code of honor. So all the samurai thing to serve,
Mhm.
the purpose to serve. That's how I feel inside. If you're not born to serve, you serve for nothing. You're useless. You're only as good as much value as you bring to somebody else. And so the whole thing for me, it wasn't the end goal. There is not an end goal.
Process of
Like
you were just doing.
it's the whole exactly. It's the process, dude. It's like once you saw that first band rehearsing, oh man, I want to learn to play drums, and then you get a drum set. It took me 5 years to get my first drum set. Great. What next? Oh, my dream is to get a band. Now you get a band. Oh, my
Yeah.
dream is to do a show. Oh, I do a show. Now my dream is to make a record. Now it's to make a second record. So it's always something. The human nature does not get satisfied. We're always looking for what's next. So what matters is the quality of the process between A and B. What happens in the middle time, in the meantime? That's the level of small accomplishments that gives you the satisfaction, the feeling of happiness. Because you're not happy all the time. You cannot
No.
be happy all the time. Otherwise, you're just high on drugs all the time.
Well,
It
that's a
doesn't.
Buddhist. Yeah, that's a Buddhist thing too. Is that you're different every second. Like you're
Yeah.
every
The only
second.
permanent thing is the impermanency of things.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
even in this conversation, we've went through different us's. It's just how it is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a book. It's a sports book. It's American football, but I forgot who wrote it. But basically, the title is the score will take care of itself. Meaning, if you play the game, the process, and you're in the now, you're going to score well. If you have that stuff, so you were always going to be where you're at. It's just you had to just keep going through these processes to get to where you're at.
Yeah, and there's a text that we wrote on the first Mindflow album, which still bugs my brain. There's the philosophy that you can write your own destiny. There's a possibility that is a real possibility, but there's also the possibility that all your life decisions are made and your self-existence is only a chance to understand the reasons why. So why all your decisions are already made and your existence is only a chance to understand why you made those decisions. So I think it's a mix of both depending on the time. I still get surprised by a lot of the times. But one thing within Megadeth that it always keep this super fresh for me is that I always take every single show and every single day as my last one. I do that. I never take a day for granted, even if I'm exhausted, even if I'm tired. I take 5 minutes to, just shake the dust off. And I never take for granted a single moment once I'm out there because it might be my last show. And I think everything in life should be faced that way. I don't
Yeah.
think tomorrow is guaranteed, and I don't think, especially when you spend too much time away from home. I treasure more the moments when I have with my parents. I treasure more the moments uh, what we're doing right now. I'm
Yeah.
trying to be as honest as I can be, and I hope we can be friends for a long time and meet at the next show. To
Yes.
me, that's what that's what I take from this. That's I'm trying to add value to whoever will watch this, and maybe they can connect with us in a level that can help them take the next step.
That's
I'm
my
not saying this is the right way. We're not saying this is the right way, but there's always a way.
no. I mean, I don't know. There's so many lessons in what you just said that what I'm going to do is clip it. So that
Yeah, yeah,
we can kind of keep them segmented. But anybody trying to do like the way you handled your band was it's exactly what Kiko would say to do. It's free. I mean, this is the way your band came up is exactly the right way to do it. And it still is super challenging. That's another lesson.
Yeah.
And then like your guitar player already having somebody contacted ahead of time and like thinking about this is who I want to make. Most people don't even think about what is the concept for the album, what's the art, what's is there a theme, what are the songs, like what am I doing, what am I trying to convey? And there's even a concept I think of people coming up with the album art and concept before the first song. It is something
Right.
I'm seeing more of. And then even the band didn't make it, but you just said, well, I'm still going. I'm still doing something.
Yeah, I mean, the industry was always fascinating to me, and I like today I even had lunch with the bass player Ricardo, and he's the CFO of a huge company in Brazil, and the guitar player is like the CEO of this financing thing, huge deal, but we always find time to sit down together and what's going on, like, and they always want to hear the Megadeth stories, of course, but
yeah, well, and that's the other thing is I didn't want you to have to talk about that. I'm sure that's what everybody wants to hear, but I wanted you to be able to talk about you and your journey because you're real close to us, like the fans of Megadeth have a lot to learn from these stories. Same from anybody that works behind the scenes on these tours are very hard. I don't know if people understand, like for me, trying to get the band together, like when you're having a practice and you try to get 4 or 5 people in the same room's hard. Couldn't imagine a whole tour that's in a different part of the country every day. My company's logistics software, so I understand getting trucks around is hard. So it's like the amount of stuff you guys have moving to where the band can walk in, their gear's there, the practice room's set up, there's food, everything. And then if you screw up, you can ruin their show. It's like
yes,
the whole feeling of it isn't something you understand until you've played in front of people. So there's all these things that I didn't even think about until I started playing.
Absolutely. Dude, that's a key thing, what you just said, because that's everything that people don't see, and the backstage action, it happens like 17 hours during the day. The show is like 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes, but, everything else is like a controlled chaos. There's a lot of things that has to fall into place, and when they don't, then what's your skill set? How can you make this happen? And unfortunately, we have one of the best crews in the world. I have no doubt. The guys, they're excellent at what they do. They're excellent with the relationship with the companies that endorse the band, and they really, really understand what needs to be done without complaining or without, just, bitching in a way.
Yeah.
They just show up and do it, these every night, every day. And because of that, I feel a lot of pressure to make a safe environment for everyone. I want the band to be comfortable. I want the crew to be comfortable, and I always do my best to accommodate that. That's really important because the human material is the essence of it. And like you were saying, sometimes people think about the artwork before having a song. Especially nowadays, younger generations that are growing up with social media stuff, and that's a key thing. Maybe this is a new way to do things, but it's like Simon Sinek says, like, why are you doing what you're doing? What is the reason? Are you a music aficionado? Do you really enjoy this stuff, or are you seeing something that may be a little part of? Are you looking at the fame part, thinking that's something?
Let's be honest. Most of them are. I mean, that's a huge component for most people.
But that's very illusional because it's not there.
That's the pain.
That thing doesn't exist. That thing doesn't exist.
Yeah. That was a hard lesson for me. Definitely was that it's more likely you're going to be working you're not going to be the front man, you're lucky somebody's lucky to even work in music. It's such a small world. and it's gotten smaller with COVID. So how would you, because I want to make sure people know that they can come work in this industry, and through the years they could be doing what you're doing. In what ways would you?
Absolutely. I think a great way, and that's the $1 billion question, right? Like, how do I get into the business? Because everybody you meet, they have such a different, unique stories. There's not a company you sign up for to do this line of work.
But first, you have to start a Brazilian progressive metal band for 13 years. No, but like Live Nation could be a way. Like start at the bottom at a Live Nation.
That's a great way. I would apply for backline companies. Go to the local venue at your city. A guy that actually has a schedule with bands. And learn from it. See how the lights work. See how the audio part works. And maybe you can start working within that venue.
Yeah, lights. Do you know who Gene Hoglan is? I'm sure, the drummer.
Absolutely, big fan.
He was Slayer's light guy.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he went up to Dave Lombardo and taught him how to play double bass. So
what?
Yeah, you can look. Gene, there's many interviews with Gene saying this, but he was Slayer's light guy, and he was like, I didn't know how to run the lights. I just hit the buttons to the beat because I was a drummer. But
oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, you'll have to look that up because it's a great story. But it's like he would, Gene Hoglan, who for me is one of the best metal drummers ever, but was Slayer's light guy. It's like he was kind of like I was doing, following a friend's band around in a way. Like that's a way to do it. Run lights.
Absolutely.
Get into running sound for the local bands. If you have a studio.
Yeah, totally, man. And like, go. That's a great way if you have friends in this industry already. But if you need to make a buck or something like that, then apply for. I would go for companies that provide backline sound system, bars, venues, any line of work in that sense that has. Because you don't have to be on the road. You can go back home every night, and the following day there will be another band at that place.
Yeah.
And then you can learn a little bit, and then eventually you might know a band that needs somebody to do a weekend show, and that that's kind of the natural way to things to work. But get to know people in bands, get to know. The light guy, and hey, can you teach me that? Can you teach me that thing? And be a guy that people can rely on. Show up. If you want to be a guy that people trust, then be the trustworthy guy. I never drink on a day work. If I'm working, I'm sober. I'm ready. I'm fresh. I'm always sharp. And be that guy. Don't get to do the thing that nobody wants to do. What is it that nobody wants to do? Give that to me, because that will make yourself necessary. That's a good thing. But if you have friends in bands, dude, ask to work for free, and just cover your costs on the road if you can afford that. If not, I would go to the local bar, see what kind of venue is having shows every night. And hey, can I intern here for a little bit? Studios are not happening anymore, that much anyways. So, but if you want to be a roadie guy, and like you were saying, truck companies are really suffering a shortage of drivers, bus companies, and that's more like a US, Europe thing, higher level kind of game. But if you're like in your teens, apply for a job at Guitar Center, learn the craft of the instrument, learn how to set up things, understand how, a tech guy, if you're working with a great level band, you're going to make money, man. It's not like you get really well paid. And what makes a great tech? Understanding how gear works, understanding how to set up, and the difference between companies and products, and what's the best solution for things. You're a technician for that thing. So I would definitely recommend that. If you want to be a playback guy, which always in high demand, learn how to work Logic, Ableton, and all Pro Tools. You can be a playback guy, dude. That's like one of the most high positions you can get on a crew. And there's so many possibilities. Just see what's your interest. If you want to work with artists, then learn psychology. Learn a little bit of literature, so you have stuff to talk about. Develop your skill set of communication and reach out. So many possibilities. Maybe you want to do accounting for a tour. That's always a key thing. Maybe you want to do a Live Nation rep thing, work with different artists. Apply yourself for that. Maybe you can do an internship, but show up. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make all the mistakes you can, because once you're in the job, then you don't have that much more room to make mistakes. But take chances. It's much more about trying to do something and failing it than not trying at all. Because nobody learns anything from getting everything right. You gotta fuck up things sometimes to learn things. And
oh yeah, you got balls that clank though, because you're saying you're gonna make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And then you pick Dave Mustaine, who's a guy I'm terrified of. I grew up watching him just eviscerate news people, which always was fun. But he'd be a guy that I just know I'd say the wrong thing, So that's like the guy that I would be the most sure I would make a mistake for, if that makes sense.
Dude, and I did many, I still do. But the thing is, in that position, it's more important to know what not to do than what to do. And if you make a wrong decision, it's okay, depending on where does the mistake comes from, but it's always better to make a bad decision than not to make a decision.
That's true.
And like Neil Peart which to me is like one of my drum gods. And he was saying, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, and
the worst
make a decision. Well, yeah. Don't be like neutral. Make a decision. Why? If this is the wrong decision, we'll talk about that later. But make a decision. And with time, and also I was never thrown in a position where I had to make decisions without being properly prepared for it. But yeah, sometimes it happens. I have to make a call, and if things go bad, I will be the first one to tell Dave, say, hey Dave, this is what happened, my fault. Especially if there's somebody new in the team, and Dave, this is what happened. I take responsibility for that because I thought this, and that. And then, sometimes you get, dude, you should know better, or say, well, okay, it's understandable, let's just make sure this doesn't happen again. Or, but moving forward, if you can get.
Yeah. And taking the responsibilities is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the better way to say all I'm saying in a short phrase.
And you're saying quickly, like you quickly are taking responsibility and bringing it to his attention, so we can move on.
You have to always work with truth, man. Because when you start working with truth, especially in a group of people, you don't have to do rhetorical gymnastics.
And that's how business works. You have problems all the time, and solving them. That's why I like businesses. I like solving the weird problems that almost can take you down. That's like. You get the adrenaline, and you have to be decisive. You can't take a long time to make a choice.
Yeah.
And if you trade options on the stock market, you have to make these choices all the time, every day, and you have to learn how to turn your emotions off, because that's what's going to mess you up the most. So doing that just for a year or two will get it to where you can just make decisions quick, and I highly recommend it. It's just very dangerous. It's very risk. Everything worth doing has a lot of risk.
Yeah, and funny you say that, because I was reading Ray Dalio's Principles, which was an incredible book, and he's talking about emotions and decision making.
So yeah, that's exactly the same thing. Yeah, that book will be shocked with that.
Yeah, and but he goes into the AI technology for that,
Mm.
then because you're dealing with a lot of important stuff, and sometimes you cannot let human emotion get involved. But that's not, unfortunately, that's not something we can apply into our game. But like we feel very prepared to do what we need to do. Um, and what is like also, oh yeah, but it's the same routine every day. You just repeat. Yes, the routine is the same every day. The circumstances are never the same. You're not in the same town. It's not the same weather. You're not in the same mood. You're not in the same building. The gear is not in the same condition. So it's always different every day. Even though the routine is the same, circumstances are never the same. So don't expect the same results every night. So that's why you have to be conscious, sharp, and this is a level game for A-level people. You cannot be partying all night and expect to deliver an 18-hour day every day for like 10 weeks. It's not
No,
gonna work.
I think we figured that out a long time ago. That
Yeah.
everybody started getting killed by it, and that was kind of a harsh buzz kill there. Well, it's
Yeah.
been wow, 2 hours. You've been great. I think
Dude,
we should
thank
do it
you.
again. We should do a podcast a couple times a year.
Anytime, brother. It was really nice meeting you. Kiko sent me your information. It was like, dude, can I send your information to Richard? Really cool guy. We just like have a chat. He wants to talk to you. So, sure, man. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk to people that might be interested in my job. So yeah, thank you for this, man. Really
I
appreciate it.
saw James Hetfield on Rogan talk about beekeeping for an hour. And
Oh,
that's when I was like, that, because I'd heard James talk about Metallica for decades. I
yeah,
wanted to hear about the bees.
yeah.
I'm sick of some of the Megadeth stuff, like the news shit they always do, trying to get Metallica in it. And it's I don't that stuff. Yeah, well, Rafael, I really appreciate it. This has been great. I had a really bad week, and this has been a nice book into that.
Oh man, I appreciate the kindness, dude. And so once I have my book ready, I'll send you a copy. I'll let you know. I'll probably have to do an English version of it, but it's gonna be something different, it's more towards the Mindflow kind of thing. Adding different kind of values to it. Something I never saw before. So looking forward to show you that next time. And thank you, man. Thank you. This has been. It's always nice to revisit these memories, and it keeps me fresh on why I'm doing what I'm doing.
It's going to help people. Like there's probably going to be people that are about to give up that hear this that don't, and just one person doing that I think is worth the time.
Well, and giving up is not the same as changing paths, but if you do this, make sure you do for the right reasons. Do on your own terms. Don't
Yeah.
just do it because it's not working out. Maybe there's something else for you, and to me, I'll just close with this. Coming back from LA to Brazil after 7 years was a very challenging spot. And I always was afraid to, oh man, I'm so afraid to have to go back to Brazil because that would mean failing. And I don't have a problem of failing if I try everything, but the pandemic just hit and it's
Mm,
just like, it doesn't feel right. But to me, it was like, I'm not moving back to Brazil. I'm going forward to Brazil. That's my next move. I'm not
yeah.
going backwards. I'm not the same guy as I was 7 years ago. I'm connected to Megadeth. I'm all I set up to do. It's set up. Now I get to do different things on my own terms, and so that to me was like just shifting that position kind of changed my world in 30 seconds. Like once oh my God, yeah, no, dude, no, different thing. So I hope everything, if you're in a position where you don't know what to do, think about what you want to do, and be honest to yourself, look in the mirror and think, are you doing the best possible thing? Because you always have friends that know more than you do, and call them, be open, be be the guy you want to be. And if you want to be somebody else, like if you, for instance, if you want to lose weight, then, learn how to say no to French fries
Yeah.
first. Don't foolish yourself, man, because it's challenging, but it's rewarding. Yeah, and everything takes time. I'm in a 25-year process of getting to whoever knows what I'm gonna be tomorrow. I might not even be working with music in 2 years' time. I
Yeah.
might be, but I'm open to it and I'm enjoying every day of it.
I think your story could be a movie, an independent film of just from the whole band coming up to where you are now. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of stuff you went through, but you always were aiming there. You weren't aiming at the bullseye all the time, but you were aiming in that direction the whole time, and that's where you went.
Dude, that's it, man. It doesn't matter if it turns left or right, as long as you're moving forward. It's the Rocky thing. It doesn't matter how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and still move forward.
Yeah.
What's next? What's your drive? What's the goal? And to me, it was being working with people, and I'm 41 now, and I'm proud to say that I work with a high level performance creative organization, and that's it.
You're in one of the big four. You're there. You're at the top.
Yeah.
There's not much place.
It's now I kid with one of our crew guys, Dave McRob, is a sweet guy, and we were working together once I got in. He was helping me get ready for Vic, and was just like the Vic thing. And now I have different roles, and he does the VIP meet and greet. Cool guy, great guy, man.
Yeah.
Really close guy with Dave as well for decades. And I remember we were in the back of the bus, and we're talking about designs for VIP merch, and like who does that and all stuff. And it was like, man, maybe we should do like this Vic thing with half of your human face and half of Vic's face, because now your face is Vic's face, and it's like we waited 40 years for you to come in, and now Vic has a face. And that's something that I think was really cool. And I leave my humbleness on the side for that, because no band ever in heavy metal history put a human face to their mascot.
Oh yeah, think about that. Like if they did it to Eddie, if Maiden did it,
or Motorhead, or
any of those.
Metallica, nobody did that, no, ever. And now we created this human aspect of Vic. We created an origin for Vic, and that's something that's going to be in history forever. So to me, that's my creative contribution to this beautiful organization that is Megadeth, a band that I really love.
That reminds me.
Oh wow!
So it's 3D printed, and she painted it.
Oh wow! 3D
not
printed.
done yet.
Amazing.
We're hoping we'll be able to meet you and get it signed or something. But it's an iconic thing. Like my wife loves it.
Wow.
Like, you're going to talk to him, all right? Because that was one of her favorite parts of that show. And Roger, she was with me.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm lucky enough to have a wife that's really into music. So
yeah, it's really cool. I remember, like, my wife is not into metal, but she always supported. We've been together for 20 years now. She always supported me very deeply, but she's not into metal. That's all. And I remember I was gonna see Van Halen, 2015, my first time. I was like, oh this is a big deal. So I bought these really expensive tickets, and bought a ticket 1 year ahead. So we watched Van Halen play at the Hollywood Bowl, and we have these box seats. And halfway through the show, and my wife, wow, this is really cool, but when does the Eddie come out? And was like, well, the guitar player's Eddie Van Halen, like, no, I'm talking about the monster thing. And I was like, oh my God, that's a different band, honey. Oh my God, you're making me regret this investment. But yeah, it was, and even in the beginning, it was like, oh, my husband is the little monster for that band. And
lead monster.
And then the little monster, I'm fucking Vic, honey, come on. So yeah, but now she understands it very much so, and it's interesting now. It's not like, oh, he's the mascot for a heavy metal band. Well, there's kind of a little more to that. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's part of the whole story. Well, man,
Yeah.
it was really nice talking to you and meeting you, and I think this has been a great conversation.
Awesome, Richard. Thank you very much, man. I apologize, shifting dates a few times and things just happen in weird ways.
It happened in the right way. It was Monday. I wasn't going to be a very good person to talk to. I just wasn't in a good space. So moving to the day was perfect. It was
Awesome. Well, I'm happy we did it. And then feel free to reach out to me anytime, man. We're friends now, okay?
great. Thanks, man. Right, you have a great weekend and have a good Canadian run. I'll be watching from a distance.
Awesome. Yeah, reach us out anytime we're near you, and you're always welcome to our show, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, man. You have a good one.
Take care, brother.
Rafael.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.